There 18 years here again, so you can write them.
Well, can I say that we had the most utter rubbish said at the AGM. I didn't know we could come to meetings. Remember that? At the AGM?
No, you know, it lasted 5 minutes at your AGM because it was talking a lot of rubbish. That's why I walked away.
People said that they didn't know they were supposed to come to meetings. That they weren't allowed to come to meetings. That's what was said by about 5 or 6 people at the AGM, right? I didn't know we could come.
I was told before.
Again, that is on the minutes that members should come to meetings to raise issues.
I came to a meeting. I came to. Archie, can I please?
No.
Archie, can I? Archie, I wanted to come along to a meeting when I first joined, maybe in the first year. I came along and I was turned away as committee members only.
Yeah.
And that happened, and that was Janet who said that to me. And I had a major issue at the time because I had things stolen from my plot, and I was told. I mean, Archie was here as well, and it was just committee members only. And I had actually asked the committee member, can I come along, because I had something to, something to share, and I was turned away. And I was one of the people that meet at the AGM who said we didn't know we were allowed to come because we were turned away. I was turned away.
Well, I'm sorry about that, but
they have 2 sets of meetings, don't they? They have committee meetings and they have general meetings.
And there should be one, where people, members of the allotment come along and, share.
Well, can we say at the moment people have turned up here, right? The next meeting should be in a month's time, first Sunday, right?
Is that a committee meeting?
That's a committee meeting.
No,
can we just agree that we have
you can have it. I mean, I've been to meetings where there's 2 halves. There's a committee meeting. You have a meeting where the members come along and share any issues that they have, and that's maybe in the first half an hour, and the next half an hour is just the committee members. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be.
Well, I've been told some of the meetings on here are committee only. You can't go to it.
It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
It should be
only for committee members.
Well, we're clear enough going forward. When we meet on the first Sunday of every month, it's for everyone to come along. Yeah, we're all clear. Yeah. No point arguing the past again because we're going to let's try and move forward from where we are. Okay. So we all know everyone who's here, anyone else who's interested who isn't here today can be told if they ask. They're welcome to come along, and we'll put a notice up for each meeting saying all members welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to come. I mean, the way these things work is if you've got something you want to raise,
that's when you come,
right?
Yeah.
So that if you want to be out working your plot and you've not really got anything that you want to say, well, you don't need to come. The point is that they are open for that.
Yeah, and there's some things obviously that only the committee members discuss. We don't need to, the members don't need to be present. Just for the for the committee members.
But in the main, if you look at the way the meetings are working, we check in the money, we check for bills. Quite often it's if there's been break-ins, we do that sort of thing. Go through that, see what we can do, and then it's usually just on to any other business. So any other business usually takes up most of the time.
And the other thing I personally have an issue with as well is I know you had the AGM. Was it October, and then there was another meeting in November, and then we seem to have no meeting in December, January, February, March. I personally think it's only. Somebody should be here. For example, people who wanted to pay their rent, who didn't get an opportunity to, or something may have happened on the plot. There should be someone here at least once a month on the first of the Sunday. Even if it's just for an hour, it may be snowing, it may be cold. You don't need to come along. It just needs to be one committee member, so someone can go to them and say, "Well, this has happened to my plot." The fact there wasn't, things have built up. People can't discuss it.
Well,
I think this is one of the reasons there's a lot of friction here as well. I mean, somebody, committee member was present. Some of the stuff would have been dealt with.
Most plots don't have meetings in the winter months, I must admit. I mean, I've been in 4 or 5 different plot areas.
I think the problems will be cleared up this year because if people come along, if members come along to the meetings, everybody's quite clear regarding paying rent.
I know, but it's not just about paying rent. It's about sometimes things happen. Other people come along, still work their plots. Something happens. There may not be a committee member around. On one of the days, there needs to be a committee member. People can go and say, things happen on a month. Things happen every day. And if there's a committee, you need to be kept informed about what's happening. A committee member needs to be kept informed.
This is not a system like people have somebody's number, or there's a number of maybe like 3 or 4 of the committee members' numbers.
To report on
by phone. By phone.
See, but I think that the danger of that is the committee members are just going to get phone calls all the time. That's why the first Sunday of every month, just come along just for the 1 hour, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. That's all. What is that?
Right. Well, can I say that what you were saying, what I said earlier on, you bring that up. That's your idea for the AGM, and it'll be voted on then. I would imagine it'll be favourable at that point. But it's not. It doesn't matter for the moment because we've got meetings all the way through the summer anyway. So that should be okay, and that's when that should be brought up, and we'll try and do it then. But that's what I'm saying. It gives people a chance to think about that as being, how would be the best way of working that? Because sometimes it's pouring a rain, and somebody's going to trek all the way up here, and it's and there'll be anybody here, But I can see it's a sensible sort of idea, so we'll certainly add that to the thing. Right?
Well, I'm not parents going to want that anyway, the Saturday anyway.
Right.
Very seldom I see anybody here. But I walk around checking the place, any break-ins and anything.
Well, I came every Sunday first of the month.
I don't see anybody up here.
Well, there's at least 4 people around still working. I mean, obviously, you were one of them, but there are some people about. I mean, you're not going to expect everybody here, but there will be some individuals. And again, if people know.
Very few actually up in the want to work in the plots.
Well, I think
anyway,
I think Alan's point is a good one, that this can wait until we can decide on this at the next meeting. Really, we're discussing something for the future. We're going to have
to think about it. See, I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It might be a better way of working.
The point seems to be just to have a point of liaison over the winter for people. They don't seem to have. We seem to have miscommunication between committee members being here and people wanting to see committee members at different times, however you look at it, whichever way round, either because as committee members we're not here or because the plot holders are not here. If we have an agreed time once a month when at least one committee member doesn't need to be here, is going to be here, that may solve that. But we can discuss that, as you said, later, so that's not a thing.
Alan, I meant to ask you something. An example here, because sometimes, people broken up, inside of them, losing everything, like tool or something, which, sometimes, people go through tool, other body, they go maybe £100, but is there a chance to get an insurance, a general insurance for all the plot over here? No?
No.
Even if it's
house insurance.
Well, to a certain, up to a certain limit, you're not asking insurance for $1,000.
You're not getting any insurance claims here.
Never be
You're not getting any money.
Did somebody try or...
When you talk to your husband,
Quite really, Carol. Just so that everybody's clear, we do have
for the tools,
public liability.
Public liability insurance.
Public liability insurance.
Yeah?
Yes, we do have that.
Public liability
Carol just
insurance.
tell me.
It's not, that's for people.
Members of the public.
Members of the public.
Maybe out of an accident in the allotments or something like that.
So we don't all get sued. That's the point. I mean, that covers
member of the public.
Yeah.
Member of the public, they only
Like
can
the
be
whole
once
of
a year.
So you have to insurance for them and
They
keep
come to
them.
open the day of that. I'm going to cheer for that, but for nothing else.
Another thing I did want to bring up, but it may be something for the future, and is composting toilets. The possibility that might be something we could look to do. I will see if I can see if there's any sort of funding available, but they can be done quite simply. Without a lot of cost involved. I haven't brought anything down with me today, but because I've had a look at, there's all sorts of different ways of doing it, but some of the allotments that have done them quite simply and without a lot of cost involved. Again, it would maybe be a case of asking who would be prepared to, be involved in building them, but material-wise, we could maybe look to do that. The open day money.
Yeah, I was going to do that. Carol, what needs a hut?
Well,
that's the main thing.
actually, I've seen a design for one that's actually doesn't even involve a wooden hut. It basically involves a wooden structure, and do you know the frosted plastic?
Yeah.
And the base is actually done in breeze blocks.
That's right. You have to have that.
And
That's right.
to me, that would keep the costs.
Well, that's very cheap breeze block. Doesn't cost much
but,
down over there.
We can look at different ideas and different costs.
Is over there. It's just over there, don't know.
Is that something we're interested in? What Carol said, we're interested in the idea of having a toilet over here.
About a year and a half ago.
Yeah. But in that
They've been bringing that up here for years
well,
and years
okay,
and
in
years,
that case, Carol,
buying toilets
you
and
said
none of that.
look at
My
plans.
rates, but see, it is a must.
So if I get
It's hygienic, we must have them. I think we should have them.
But if you've got some ideas, Carol, will you be able to bring them at the next meeting? And we can discuss it at the next meeting. That's something we can talk about then,
I would have done it, I would have printed it up. But I've had a
you can do that for the next one, yeah?
If anything else has got access to internet, if you just look under
Okay.
composting, toilets and allotments, give me your feedback.
Carol, I said, what McNeil look at the drawings with that other one? I said, look at the drawings. Alan McNeil. I said, Alan, look at the drawings.
I did ask Alan during the week, but he doesn't have them now. But Alan's were sort of built based on building it on a hill, which is maybe not practical in here.
No.
But there's other ones that are quite simple, and you can do them on the level.
But the place was seen up there. There's no place for it.
But there's probably people here who've got access to the internet. They could have a wee look and see what they think as well, just on what would be practical for us to do. And if we were doing that, somebody had said possibly the area beside the container that's not been used.
Well, that was where we were saying we might dump, if people are bringing stuff in. That was where we were going to lay it.
Well, we need an area. We need an area front too, aren't we? We need an area where something needs. That's not an excuse for everyone to put their stuff there, but we need to clear that front. That's what we just said. So we need to clear that
the
somewhere just for that.
Because we couldn't get anything in there.
Well, I mean,
we needed to.
There's not saying that if
there's a
anybody's
toilet somewhere though, here already.
Yeah, that's behind someone's plot.
Yeah,
It's not fair. It's not fair to that person.
no, that's not.
Right, you were going to...
Yes. We didn't make it to the AGM, as you know, obviously. We weren't here. It's been my understanding, as you know, Alan, Michael and I were on the committee at one point, that at that time people all paid their rent at the AGM. That was the time that people paid their rent. Now, I personally haven't been aware of any change in that, so Michael and I assumed that the rent was due on the AGM, and because we weren't going to physically be here because we were in England at the time, I asked June to pay the rent for me. Now, we've already covered, I'm not going to get into what's already been covered because there's no point in that. However, what happened was we were told, the feedback that I was given is that I had to speak to Alan before I could pay the rent for the plot. Right. Now, I've attempted to do that on a few occasions. Well, on 2 occasions, I wrote 2 letters with my address, phone number, mobile number, and asked Alan in the letter, and I was told by Carol that this did actually get passed because I didn't have your personal address. So I had to send it via the secretary, obviously, Janet, which I did. I had absolutely no feedback on this whatsoever from any member of the committee. Right, so nobody, my point is absolutely nobody spoke to myself and Michael about this from the AGM onwards. What had basically happened after that is that we came along to the following meeting, but the meetings used to be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and this, then I learned it was now 1 o'clock. So we came along about maybe 2 or 2:30, expecting it to be later. We came along the following month, which was the first Sunday in September. So that's when we met David and spoke to Carol, and Carol said that letters were going to be issued, etc., and she explained what had been discussed at the meeting previously. So we expected a letter, but we had been in and started working the plot anyway because I'd spoken to Janet about it prior to the AGM. So anyway, we were then told come back the following there would be a meeting the first Sunday in, so that was the August, September, October, the first Sunday in October. Well, we turned up for that, and we were told to come and also to consider plot sharing, and there were other issues that I discussed with Carol and David, and that was fine. So we turned up for the meeting with our rent. So did June and John. They had their rent there, cash to pay, and there was no meeting. We saw Archie, we saw David, and we saw this man here.
I won't take rent anyway.
And he didn't have any receipt book, and there was nobody there who could take the rent. So we were asked to come the first Sunday the following month, which we did with our rent. So did John, so did June, and again there was nothing. There was nobody here, and basically, personally, I don't find that acceptable. You know, we turned up and paid the rent. They had the rent. I'm witness to that they actually did turn up with the rent in cash. David is witness to it. He was the one that we ended up seeing, because he was here the first Sunday.
Well, I think in retrospect, Stella, that's where the mistake was made, and I'm sure the guys will probably, because basically all it required was a piece of paper. And so, right.
So I think
we've kind of gone over this point that that's what's caused a lot.
The issue is not so much the money. It's the plots being worked, and as we've said, the plots are now being worked, so we are happy, right? So there's no right at the point of the AGM, which was October, and we don't have meetings after that one at the moment.
Well, there was one in November. We were told there was one in
Well,
November, and then there was to be one again in December.
Carol and myself and Archie,
There was a few
and
people
a few of
there
us were
at
here
that
for the November, the first one in November, but anyway.
But the point is, right, we're happy now, you're working the plot, and that's all we ever were looking for, right? But we were not happy to go down the road of just continually accepting money from people who are not working their plot. And that was at the point of the AGM, that's why we wanted to see you, because at that point we had gone round, Archie, myself and a couple other people had gone round all the plots, and we'd said, right, if these people are here, we are going to have a word with them before we take their plot money, and that was one of the things.
See, that's my point that I'm trying to make just now. I attempted to contact you to discuss it with you, and you just didn't. You didn't contact me. There was no communication at all. And I think a lack of communication causes problems, as we can see today, because things have erupted and happened, and people have got angry because the communication hasn't been good. And I also brought a doctor's letter. You know, I'd spoken to Carol, I'd spoken to Janet, but I was told I was to speak to you. So Carol did explain situation, and she did say, you know, I will be sending letters out. I'm not saying there wasn't any communication with Carol, and I did have some communication with Janet, but the letter, I was told I was to speak to you about it, and I couldn't pay the rent. It wasn't I couldn't pay the rent till I'd spoken to Carol or Janet. Right. It was yourself
well, I mean,
specifically.
That's just one, that is part of the thing that happens when, you know, we don't have the meetings after the AGM, right? So
it's a good reason maybe to go down that road.
But there was one other thing that we raised, brought up. It was an idea of mine we brought up at the AGM. We discussed it in meetings and things beforehand. Was that the plot rents were going to, when they went up, they would go up by maybe a $5, and then it would stay the same for at least 2 years, and maybe probably 3 years before it going up, so people would have a good idea what they had to pay. And because of that, you know, so people now know today what the rent will be next year. And so because of that, we can get the money in early. Up until that situation, what happened was people quite often decided what the rents were going to be at the AGM, so people obviously couldn't pay it in advance. I mean, and I've always felt that's a daft thing, because you're asking people to turn up on the last day, perhaps there's a meeting, somebody's got to gather all the money in one day. If people are not there or whatever, what we've now got as a situation is, if you want to, you can pay your rent, you know, as long as you're working it. We're not accepting the fact that just because you pay it, you can just leave the plot as it is without working it. But it's, you now know how much it is going to be. It's the same this year as it is next year, so you know what it's going to be.
Well, could I make
so you don't have to be.
Could I make a suggestion then? Could you put a notice up to let people know if they're required to pay their money early, because I haven't ever heard of that. I thought it was due, I did think it was due in August, and I phoned Janet about it, and I said to her, is it time for me to send you a cheque for the plot? And she said, no, just wait. So Janet actually said to me, no, wait to the AGM, because in my mind the AGM should have been in August, although sometimes it ran late. Would it not be a better idea to say that the rent's due from August, or have the AGM as it used to be in August, and that gives people the couple of months?
What we can do still is stick to the AGM in October, but we can put up a notice in August on the notice board reminding everyone that rents are due by the AGM in October.
And that's what they are. We did that. I've already done that. Yeah, we had that last year.
But that's it.
Everybody who read that board knew that. All the people who paid the rent at the AGM knew that.
Okay, that
It's not an issue.
yeah, but it's not moving forward now rather than...
We'll make sure it's done this year. This year there will be a notice up. Everyone will know the rent's due by before or by the AGM.
Right. You happy with that, Stella?
Yeah.
Right. Any other? I think people are restless to go and do some money. Any other points?
Hold on, see that thing you're talking about there, she was talking about there. We were doing a check the plots, there were 17 plots not been worked.
Aye, on that day. Aye, I know.
17 plots here.
That's why we were a bit...
Really?
But there's
So
not
actually, again, so the same rules should apply to everybody, not
there's
just
not
selected
17
people.
plots now.
There's no 17 plots now, they can be well cleaned up tidies.
So that's the better news. And the people that have taken up these bits up there, that's going to look a bit better as well. So all in all, I think it's a bit more positive this year than last, and last year was a wee bit more positive than the year before in terms of the plots. So it's looking better.
And if people is not well, and they can't work the plot that year, we're not going to take a plot off them. But we could get somebody off the waiting list to work that plot that year for them. And that'll let us see who was taken in to work plots, or they picked to give a plot to or not. We're not taking the plot when we're sick. If we can get people in to work for them that year. And that gives somebody up to us for a year. And they can keep the plot tidy instead of...
Well, David says it's that prime example.
I'm going to have it. Right.
Progress.
Have they finished that?
Yeah.
Right.